today we're going to, continue our series on networking for sales and referrals, but specifically on building a system that protects your time. One of the challenges of becoming a powerful networker as you go along your journey and become better at networking, you'll start to realize that you're getting so many people in your network. As you start to become a great person, as we talked about last week, you'll get so many people in your network that it will become, kind of overwhelming. Right. We talked about, joining organizations and becoming involved. One of the challenges many of my clients face is that, Ray, I'm doing so much. I'm going to everything and I'm tired, and so networking, I always tell people the middle part, the main part of networking is work. Right. So it is work, but it doesn't have to be hard work. It could be fun and enjoyable, but a lot of that has to come with having a system in place. Because if you don't have a system in place and you're going out running from event to event to event every day in the week, you're going to end up looking like this. Right. Right. And maybe some of you can relate to having that face when you get an invitation to go to another networking event where it's like you've been out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I remember before the pandemic, I had to be 3 places at the same time and at the exact same time, 3 different places in 3 different parts of town. So I learned that I have to, manage my time and manage where I can be. Otherwise, I was going to get swamped and overwhelmed. And so I don't want that to happen to you and your clients. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So a key takeaway from today's message is that networking is not about knowing a lot of people. I think that's a common misconception. People think that networking is about knowing. When you're a good networker, you can say I'm a good networker because I know a lot of people. That's not the case. Networking is about having great relationships with a few or a limited number of the right people. So I'm going to say that again. Networking is not about knowing a lot of people. It's about having a great relationship with a limited number of the right people. So when I say limited number, right, what is that number? How many people, Ray, should I have in my network? Well, fortunately, some research has already been done on this. And so there's a guy named Robin Dunbar, he's an anthropologist at Oxford, did a study back in the 80s on how many friendships can we have, right? How many active, simultaneous social relationships can a human being have at once? And the number came out to be somewhere between 1 and 200, on average, about 150 people that we can call friends. And when I say friends, I mean somebody who's got your back, somebody who's looking out for you, somebody who will do favors for you, somebody who will send you referrals. But most importantly, a friend is somebody who wouldn't dream about buying a house or referring someone who is in the market for a house to anybody except for you. Now imagine if you had 150 of those people in your life. According to the Real Estate Association, people move an average of once every 10 years, right? So if you have 150 people in that circle who wouldn't dream about doing business with anyone except for you, that's 15 transactions a year, right? On the bottom, 15 a year to start with. Would that be, could you guys eat off of that? Would that be okay? Yeah, right. So just starting with being able to sell 15 houses a year before we talk about referrals, before we talk about leads that come in from the office or people who see your number on a sign. Before that, you already are starting out. So it's about having 150 people roughly in your circle who wouldn't think about buying or doing business with anybody except for you. one of the challenges we have generally as we get into the business, or before you're in the business, is we have generally 5 or 6 or maybe 8 or 10 people that we put into that category. How, if you think about how many people do you know who wouldn't dream about buying a house from anybody except for you, right? And what is your relationship with those people? Are you building that relationship? Are you what are you doing to encourage that, to make sure that you stay top of mind with those people? Now, that number, 100, 150 people, may sound overwhelming. I mean, how could you possibly have all of those people and manage all of those different relationships? Well, there's a couple of steps. So first, it's about defining the right type of people that you want to have in your network, right? So I call them ecosystems, and just generally, when you think about an ecosystem, these are groups of people or groups of things that work together for the good of the organization or the good of the environment or the good of the organism, right? And so your network, if you think about it, is an organization, just like everything else, except you're the president and CEO of your organization. And so this is an opportunity for you to create your own organization with your own departments, right? Or your own ecosystems, which is led by what type of person do I need? Who would be helpful in what I'm trying to do? And my assumption is what you're trying to do is sell more houses and get more referrals. What type of people should I have in my network? These are 7. And again, these are what I recommend, but it could be others. It could be more, it could be less, it could be different ecosystems, but just something for you to think about. And these are, for example, of course, you have your family in there, right? So your family is first. These are just people that you already know, that already, should like you, right? And that differs for everybody, but and they should trust you, right, as well. So you already kind of have that know, like, and trust with family members. So that's kind of an easy group of people, right? Also, look at people in your industry, other agents. Sometimes we go into this business thinking it's a zero-sum game. If Becky sells a house, that's one less house for me, right? But by having friends in the industry, helps you with information, and work together. There are folks who will end up going to other cities, or folks who are in other markets or specialize in different neighborhoods that you just don't know anything about. So having these relationships and these friendships can lead to more business and more opportunities, as opposed to thinking about it as losing. We talked a little bit about that last week. We talked about generosity, right? When you come at life from a abundance mindset, right? There's plenty of houses, there's plenty of customers. There's no need for us to fight. Healthy competition is fine, but there's no need to have that, Scrooge McDuck, mine, mentality. That doesn't help in the long run. Mortgage and finance people, right? Again, we talked last week about good referrers are people that you send referrals to. Right. So if you're sending referrals to mortgage people, to finance people, there's likelihood that when they hear about someone who's in the market, or, they may find you, or maybe one of their clients is saying, I don't like my agent. We've started down this path and my agent isn't good. They may say, well, we'll call my friend. Politicians, community leaders. This is, I know one of my favorites, but I know a lot of people don't like dealing with politicians. And I mean, I think that's even definitionally, when you look at the Greek, poly means many, and ticks is blood-sucking insects. Just kidding. Just kidding. Hope there's no politicians in the audience, but I dabbled in politics myself. But people who are into politics know things, right? They know where neighborhoods are going to go up. They know where different situations where crime is. A lot of this stuff is planned downtown, and so by having relationships with folks who are plugged into that that ecosystem, that downtown, that city hall, who can tell you, about crime, about, where the budget is going for certain areas. And again, that helps you become more resourceful. And I know we talked about that last week. Being resourceful means you have information that can help your clients, right? You know what's coming in the future because the politicians and the community leaders have inside baseball on what's coming down the pike, where they're building new communities, where they're where they're going to be doing construction. So knowing these folks can be helpful to you. Educators, are good people to have, again, because they know parents, right? Parents are very likely to move as their families grow, as their families they have to move. And so educators are good people to know. We talked about, becoming part of the PTA. So that's a good way to get in with educators. And also, as you know, whenever they're putting up a new school, that's where they're building neighborhoods around that school. And also, educators can give you inside information on how good the schools really are. I know that there are websites and there's, resources to say this school is A+ and this is a B+. But the teachers, right, the people who work in that school, the principals, really know, and they can give you that information. Again, these are good people to be friends with. And business owners, again, going back to when you send people referrals, they're likely to refer people to you. So if you know auto mechanics or dentists or, folks who are entrepreneurs who have their own business, a lot of times just sending them referrals, it becomes a two-way street, that law of reciprocity, right? When someone feels that you're always sending them business, they'll feel obligated to send you business. So it's just another way of having friends that can help you. And again, this list is not conclusive, right? You can, maybe there's a group that you already are in with that would be your ecosystem, that you already are having success getting referrals from, or you think would be a great resource for you based on the type of customer you're going after. But by doing this, now you can look, and I'll go through in a future slide here, talk about specifics, but in a nutshell, each one of these should have about 20 people that you call friends, right? So if you have 20, 25 people in each one of these buckets, right, now you have your 150 people. So it's a matter of simply, putting a system in place now of keeping in touch with them. But the question becomes another question when you start, getting these people and you're building your ecosystem. How do you know who do you put in, who gets to be in your system? Because a network, being in your network, and I want you to remember this, being in your network is valuable. When someone is a member of my network, it is worth something. Right? It's not something for other people to take for granted. You're not necessarily doing me a favor by being a part of Ray Abrams' network, because I know people, I know politicians. I'm friends with the mayor, right? I'm friends with, people with loan officers. I'm friends with I'm friends with these people. And so when I put you into this circle, that's value. You're going to get value out of being in my network. And so it's important that you have a criteria for who gets into your network, right? So you're not being arbitrary, right? There is an objective way of measuring whether someone deserves to be in your network. And people come and go, right? People come in and we've all had this happen. We've all had friends that we thought were cool, and then they lie to us, they betray us, they do something, and that's part of the risk of expanding your network, of expanding the number of friends you have, is that there are more people who can, show themselves to be bad friends. However, if you have a criteria, you can know in advance, or at least as soon as they show signs that they're not going to be good friends, you can remove them. And so I use something called the core value chart. And I don't know if this was distributed to you, but if not, we can make sure you get a copy of it. And so this is a list that psychologists use to identify, who belongs in your circle, what's important to you. And so it's a list of, I think it's about 60 words that you circle, 4 or 5 words, right, that are important to you. And then you highlight the 1 or 2 that are deal breakers, right? If someone shows themselves to be fake, maybe that's a deal breaker. I don't need any fake people in my network. If someone shows themselves not to be compassionate, maybe that's it. So these words are kind of a guide, as you're deciding on the type of people that you want to remain in your network. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the funnel, right, of getting people to come. But then now people are in your network and you're building this relationship. What are your core values? And many of us have never given it any thought. And that's why I think this exercise is actually important, because we talked last week about the Johari window and kind of seeing what other people think about you, right? But when you actually do this exercise, what it does is it gives you a crystal clear vision into what you really value, right? And what really drives you. I think whenever someone asks you, in an interview or just somebody says, well, what's important to you? Many people will say, money, fame, success. But when you do an exercise like this, it gives you an opportunity to dive into that and really see if those things are really what motivates you. And maybe you've had the wrong motivation in your life. You're chasing someone else's motivation instead of your own, based on your core values. And also, as far as the people that you have in your life, every New Year's Eve, and I'm sure you'll see it this New Year's Eve on Facebook, right? Yeah, I'm cutting people off this year. I'm cutting, I'm going through deleting friends, right? And so, but how do you make those decisions, right? And so having an understanding of what your core values are will help you make decisions and make better choices about the people in your network, about the people in your circle. And so I'm going to dive a little deeper. Anybody who's spent any time in marketing probably understands personas. You may have done personas, or even if technology does it too. Many businesses have personas, and you may even have this for your business today. And if not, this is how it works. You really are being proactive. And I know I use the term day ones. Has anybody heard the term day one? Raise a hand. No. So day ones are the people that you met in elementary school, right? Those are the friends that, from 3rd grade, you sat together on the school bus, and 30 years later, you're still friends, right? Those are your day ones. You got, several of those folks who, they've been around forever. However, many times your day ones either can't or won't buy from you, right? Your day ones quite often are not your target customer. They're just good friends. They're people you love to see, you love to have a beer with them. Nothing wrong with it. They got bad credit, right? They can't afford to buy a house in your market, or they live in another town, right? So what you have an opportunity to do now as an adult is get some day twos, right? Day twos. And you can proactively decide how they look. What do they do for a living, right? What do they value? How does their family look, right? And so friendships doesn't have to be accidental. When we think about most of our friends, and even the ones we've met in college and through life, we probably met them randomly. They've just lived near us. They were standing in line behind us in a grocery store. You met at a bar, and 20 years later, you're still buddies, right? And so that happens, and nothing wrong with that. However, you haven't necessarily given a lot of thought to the type of friends that you want. And sometimes people think, and I hear this, that feels manipulative, right? That, well, I only want friends who make $500,000 a year, right? it's not manipulative at all, right? It's actually smart. And people, even successful people, I find, don't have friends. They want people to be friends. So it's important that you're authentic about friendship. So again, this is not an invitation to use people, right? It's about making a decision. It's about being intentional in advance about what type of friends you want to have, right? Is this friend going to be someone who could buy a house from me in the future? Is this friend someone who would be a good referral source? Right. And so I recommend even and obviously this is just a template I found online, but you can, it doesn't have to be this pretty at all, but it's a matter of simply writing down, and there's research online on how to create a persona, but just writing down the attributes that you would like. If you could pick a friend, if you could create, there was a movie in the 80s called Weird Science, where the two high school kids, they created a computer program to print out the perfect girl. I don't know if you guys might be before some of your time, but it was great. And even though that was farcical, it's kind of true. When you make this decision, when you write down what type of friends you want, they actually will appear in your life. I've seen it happen time and time again. It's the way our brains work. There's something called the reticular activating system, right? Which is a very sciencey. I know I use sciencey terms a lot, but it's a part of our brain. If you've ever bought a car, I'm sure many of us have bought a car, and then the next day you see everybody driving that same car. Like you see 10 of them. Like you've never seen a green Volvo until you buy a green Volvo. And like that next week, you see green Volvos. Because what's happened when you've made that purchase, you've told your brain that this is important to me. Green Volvos are important. And so your brain automatically, without you doing anything, starts looking for green Volvos, right? And that's how that works. And the same is true for people. When you tell your brain what's important to you, you just put that message in there and it automatically will start looking for those people. And they'll just appear out of nowhere. They'll appear in the grocery store. This exact Eva entrepreneur will appear within weeks, and you'll meet her. Hi, my name is Eva. I'm an entrepreneur. You go, oh my God, and watch it. It really works. So do this work being intentional about the type of people that you want to have in your life. So how do you start, right? So first, I start with the people that I already know, right? Go through your phone. When was the last time you just went through your phone and called everybody, right? Call the people. You have all these numbers in your phone. I think about some people's phones are like the junk drawer in your kitchen, right? Does anybody have a junk drawer in the kitchen just with random batteries and electrical tape? And birthday candles. Yeah, we all have that drawer. But what happens is when you need something and you go look in that drawer, the batteries are dead, right? The tape, somebody moved the tape, that the extra staples aren't there anymore, right? Or there's only one staple at the bottom, right? So the junk drawer, while it's good intention, you say, I don't want to throw this away. I might need this one day. And when that day comes, chances are it's either not there or not working or not what you need specifically. Same is true for your contacts in your phone, right? How many people do you have in your phone that you just keep? You've had the number in there for years and you've never talked to them. So what you need is a system to call people and understand what your relationship is with those folks. And so what I do is I put what I recommend, and I have this as a pro tip, is to put your contacts into your CRM. I know as a real estate agent, if you're not provided with a CRM, you probably have one, for leads that come in. Why not use that system for people that you already know in your phone? I talk to agents all the time and they just never think about that. Like I never put the people that I know in the CRM. I use it only for when I get a lead, when a cold call comes in, or maybe somebody puts the lead into the CRM system, and I go through and I make these cold calls. But having a CRM allows you to set reminders to call your friends, the people that you've identified as people that you want to have in your circle. So the people in your ecosystems, right? So now you can use the CRM system to categorize people, right? So if you already know some politicians, if you know some educators or business people, business owners, now you can put them in there, categorize them, and set a reminder so that you can call or contact. And I specifically didn't say call, I say reach out to, because you can text, or you can post a comment on their social media. Chances are you're connected with them on socials if they're your personal friends. 5 people a day. Sometimes you call, and think about that. If you do that 5 people a day for 20 days in a month, 20 working days, that's 100 people. If you do it 7 days a week, that's 150 people. And it takes you a few minutes to do that, right? So now you're building that relationship, right? You're touching base with people. And in a future session, I'm gonna talk about how you do that, but how you keep building the relationship. But this gives you that reminder. You have the technology, you have the tools already. Use them to build your personal relationship. So this is also another step that you can do when you have the system in place. So as you're going through your phone, there are different types of folks that you have. First one I call the ambassadors, right? That's mom and them, right? That's the people who, that's what we say down in the South, mom and them. People who are always raving about you. These are the people you don't have to worry about them sending you referrals. These are people that always are raving about you, that are telling everybody about you. And these are your ambassadors. So you want to label them. You want to make sure you keep a good relationship with your ambassadors. Do nice things for them, right? The second one is acquaintances. Acquaintances are people who are your day ones. These are people who aren't necessarily, a good referral source, or won't necessarily become a customer, but they're good to have in your phone, right? Just in case, holidays, we just touch base, because you never know when they will either fall into a bucket, and I actually push ecosystem. They fall into one of the ecosystems, right? You're the guy down the street who's an acquaintance runs for city council and wins, right? It happens. Or they become teachers, or they end up going into one of your buckets. So you want to kind of keep them as acquaintances, touch base with them regularly, but not as much as you do for the folks who are in your ecosystems. Because remember, if you have 150 people in your ecosystems, that's about that's a lot, right? That's a lot of effort. So your acquaintances are people you talk to once a year, a couple of times a year, like you normally do. It's about focus, and label them in your phone as this. And then lastly is the deletes, right? And this is what prevents you from having that junk drawer. Right. If you ever go through that junk drawer, sometimes just clean it out and say, I did recently, I had my son's 3-year-old birthday candle in there. He will never be 3. Right. I will never have another 3-year-old, I don't think at this point is possible, but chances of me having a 3-year-old at this point in my life are slim. So why do I have this big 3 candle in my junk drawer? So deleting. So if there are people in your phone that have shown themselves to be not good people, not people that you want to have in your network, not people you would ever even want to do business with, not people you would ever refer to anybody else. Just get them out of the phone. There's no need to keep them in there just to take up space, because what that does is it kind of, it takes up mental space as you're scrolling through on people you need to talk to. You get that, and sometimes it's weird how sometimes just seeing somebody's name can make you angry. Right? You just see that person's name, like you had that ex or that former business partner or just somebody who did you wrong, and you see their name and it ruins your whole day, or at least in the next hour or so. You're just not in the mood to talk to anybody because you forgot about them. Delete them from that phone so that you don't risk that. So I promised I would talk a little bit about the actual system and how it works, right? How do I kind of get people that I've met into my network? So if any of you have ever had any experience in marketing, right, you're probably familiar with funnels, right? And you're in sales, so you have the concept of the funnel where you build awareness, you're building interest, then the customer makes a decision on whether they want to buy or not, on which they take action, right? And this is the end of the funnel, right? This is when they decided to buy and actually giving you their credit card or giving you their cash to buy your product. That's how it works in marketing. Well, it works similarly in networking, but it's just different terms, right? And it's another step. So the first step is kind of meeting somebody, right? At a networking event or in the grocery store, you've kind of met this person, right? You've seen them. You haven't seen them in years. Somebody you haven't seen since high school, right? So now we've met them. The next step is the follow-up. And this is where so many people miss the boat, is following up. How many times have you seen the person that you haven't seen in a long time, or you met somebody new, and what do you do when you're leaving? We've got to keep in touch. Let's get together sometime and grab some lunch, right? And it never happens. 5 years later, you never got together and did that lunch or did that coffee. So we want to follow up. And what that prevents is that box of business cards. Right? Does anybody on the call have a box, a shoe box, or a drawer full of business cards in their office or at their house? I know you do. Nobody's nodding, but I know you do, right? I've seen the box. And so what happens is that box just collects dust unless you do the follow up, because the goal of networking is not this big red. That's where everybody thinks this is networking. We talked about that last week, right? The exchanging of business cards, the exchanging of contact information is networking. That is not, right? It's about getting people down here, right? So you have the follow-up, and here is where you decide if this person likely is worthy of being in my network, right? You're finding out, you're getting a feel for their core values, right? Do they have the same values as you? And it only takes a conversation at a high level. I mean, of course, time tells, but at a high level, over a coffee, if this is somebody who's going to be the type of person who could either, buy from me or send me referrals, or maybe just be a good information resource for me. And if you decide they are, now is when you invest the time to build that know, like, and trust. So as you're calling them, right, you put them into that ecosystem, right? You're calling them every month, texting them, sending them a social, commenting on their social media status, right? So you're building like they know, they feel like they know you, right? They're obviously going to like you because you're a likable person. You've already done the great become a great person exercise, right? So now that you've done that work, they're quite often going to like you and build trust, right? So you're giving them opportunities to learn to trust you, which is as simple as doing what you say you're going to do, right? Just being a trustworthy person and building that trust. And we talked a little bit about that last week, how you specifically build trust with someone. And then this is when you test it, right? Is this person ever going to send me a referral? Or are they a good resource when I call them to recommend something, or I call them for some information that I thought they would be able to provide? Are they that person? If I connect them with somebody in my network, do they take advantage? Do they do it, right? Do they follow up? Are they what the type of person that they seem to be, right? And again, each one of these levels, you're removing people, right? Because again, as we talked about at the very beginning, you meet hundreds of people every month, right? Just as you're going out, as you're living life, or you should be, right? You're meeting a lot of people just in your business, just in your life, right? But only a few people make it down here, right? And then if they've proven themselves that they are someone who maybe they buy from you quickly, or they refer somebody quickly, or they prove themselves to be a good resource for you. Now you say, okay, this person can be a friend. And now is when you really make that investment. You treat them like a friend. And when I say friend, I mean someone who would feel comfortable inviting you to their birthday party, right? And vice versa, right? You know, how many people do you have that you would feel comfortable inviting to your birthday party, to a life celebration, right? These are your friends. And when someone reaches that level of friendship, those are the people I'm talking about, who wouldn't dream about buying a house or referring someone to anyone except for you. So that's all I had today. You know, feel free to email me. I got a good couple of emails last week. Thank you so much for those. And, you know, if I can be of service to you offline, please feel free to reach out to me.